Painful Lessons Podcast. I'm Tyler Ramsey. I have a guest today. His name is Danny Goler. And I don't want to waste any time. I believe everything that you're coming to say. And what you have to say is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. And I don't like say that lightly. And I don't want to, I feel like vetted you completely. I feel that everyone that I know that you know says 100% he's so legit. You're not trying to sell anything. And I want you to know everything that you have on your mind and everything that you have discovered is mind-blowing in the way that like a gigantic invention of technology is. So without any more ado, I'd like to say thank you for being on Painful Lessons.
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that I appreciate the kind words, but I'm not so sure that I'm necessarily what I'm the place out of which I'm operating is the people just accept what I'm saying. I appreciate what you're saying. I understand the gesture, but the way that I see what I do is just making information available.
Okay.
Yeah, and as Terrence used to famously say, if it's real, it can take the pressure. So it's something that we actively are investigating, and ourselves, we're not even sure about a lot of things of what, in fact, all of this means. We just know we're interacting with something real. We can talk about that, but
sure.
But yeah, the important thing for us is, well, the science and the project of human understanding. That's what we're all about.
You have been able to peek around reality, and you've discovered something else.
So the shortest way of saying it is just to say what it is, and then the implications of that is really the rest of the conversation.
Great.
So what I discovered is essentially that if you projected a fractal laser on the surface and you ingest DMT in any form, if you smoke it, if you ingest it in a liquid form, ayahuasca, whatever, however it is that you're going to do it, you will see what seems to be a self-executing code of some sort in the surface of where you're projecting the laser. Now there's all these, possibilities and questions, and why do you think this is more substantial than any other hallucination, things like this. But at this point, we have thousands of replications. We have scientists, software engineers, mechanical engineers, cryptographers, game developers. We have people all over the world that coming in and just contributing their time, because they believe that this is something of substance. And what started as just me communicating on YouTube about what I've discovered has now become a full-fledged project. We have a nonprofit that we started called Code of Reality, Inc. Currently, we're still submitting for the actual nonprofit status, but for all intents and purposes, the organization is focusing on what we call cognitive physics, which is just a term we made up to denote the fact that we're trying to investigate the actual crux of what is this connection between consciousness and physical matter, and what is that? Because we feel like there are some entities in the world that are investigating, well, obviously there's physics, right?
Yeah.
But even in the cognitive science, you have all these branches of investigating consciousness through the correlation with the brain, so like brain mappings and things like this. What we're interested is in what's called the hard problem of consciousness.
Wait. But before, I want to make sure that we've really laid down the context of what this conversation is about. So it's you have discovered a laser.
No, so I did not discover the laser. What I did was I made a connection between the fact that if you project a fractal laser on a surface and you ingest DMT, you will see this code.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
So you have a group of test subjects. You give them a set amount of DMT, correct? You give them a set amount of DMT, which is a hallucinogenic drug, and then you take each one of them independently of each other, and you aim a laser at a specific spot, and they look at what the laser is do they look at the other side?
No, you're projecting it on the wall, and you're just looking at the projection.
Okay, they look.
You
at the
can
projection.
do it from the other side. Like we projected it on like a screen.
Okay,
that you can see it from the other side. As long as you see a reflection of the laser light bouncing back to your eye from any direction.
Yeah.
On the surface, you will see it while you're on DMT.
Okay, and once they look at that laser and what it's hitting, they will all see code.
Yes, with some caveats. It does take some people a second to see it. Some people just see it right away. Some people, it takes them a second to kind of focus their eyes in a particular way.
Yeah.
We think it has something to do with how different people cast their attention. It might have some other components that we don't understand.
Sure.
But currently, we do know that some people take them a second to see it. But it's a one-way street. The second that you try it a few times, basically everybody sees the same thing.
So where my head goes is, oh my gosh, they're actually seeing the same way that Neo in the Matrix sees code when everyone else in the Matrix just sees reality. That's what's happening.
Yes. So something interesting to me, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but just out of curiosity, why is that the first thing your mind does and not, well, this is just a hallucination?
I started out thinking this is a hallucination, but when you explained that that you've had a group, and this now group includes 1,000.
We have at least over 2,000 people. Yeah,
2,000 people.
Yeah.
And they all see the same thing. It doesn't make sense to me that everyone would see the same hallucination.
Yes.
Okay. So, but then I think, oh, is it the laser? Are they seeing, instead of reality, are they just seeing what happens with like light and lasers?
That's easily answered, because when you move the light, what you see inside is not moving with it.
So when you shoot the light at a different spot, are you seeing the code move with it?
No. So it's like you're putting a flashlight on something in the dark.
Okay, got it. Okay,
that's why it's like immediately very clear to you. Like it has complete space permanence. So it's moving.
Complete space permanence.
Complete space permanence. It's moving. It's doing its own thing.
Yeah.
But on its own accord. It's not dependent on your head or on the light. The one variable that isn't doing anything in relationship to you, it's not moving in relationship to you or the light, is whatever that is, whatever we're looking at.
Okay, got it. So it is very much like a flashlight shining a light on something. Mm-hmm. And if you move the flashlight, it isn't moving the image.
Exactly.
It's okay, got it. That's what
that's one of the most convincing things about it, coupled with the fact that it's ultra HD. So it's not even when you hallucinate, when you see things on psychedelics, they tend to have some relationship to the way that the drug metabolizes through your system.
Sure.
So it unfolds and evolves, and like, there's an arc, right?
Yeah.
And it depends on many things that you do, like your state of mind, your movement, all kinds of things.
Sure.
But that does not have that. We tried so many different things, from playing different sounds, frequencies.
Yeah.
We in fact, one of the things we're trying to do now is to see if we can influence the code in any way. It doesn't seem to be the case. Like you can't do anything to it. It's just what it is.
You can't play music for the test subject. You can't. There's nothing that you can do that changes this.
So far, we are trying to do that. So there's a rocket company that we got in contact with through somebody who was a longtime listener on my channel, and he's an engineer, and he brought one of his friends, was like this brilliant and another engineer, and he's the head engineer of this rocket company in Jersey, actually.
Yeah. And
we're gonna be probably next month. We're gonna go and do some tests. They have like very fancy equipment.
Yeah.
They have high level electromagnets. They have a lot of stuff with material science that we're gonna play with, because there's a few ways to go about this. One of them is the way that neuroscientists would go about testing this, which is that they're going to put a bunch of individuals over time, and they're going to tell them nothing, inject them with DMT, let's say, put a laser in front of them, watch, see what happens. That's how they're going to go about it. But the thing with that is that even if you have 10,000 people doing this, yes, you might collect some data about like observation, but all of it is, it's almost like secondary account. Somebody's telling you something, right? So
yeah.
it will never hold as much water as if a test that can do something we couldn't do before. So if I can right now I don't know. One of our bets is that if you expose the laser to a powerful enough of a magnetic field, something might happen to the code. If that happens, we don't know that yet. But if that happens, for example, that immediately changes the conversation entirely. Because if I turn on a powerful magnet,
Yeah.
and both you and I see the same change to what already seems to be a shared visual.
Yeah.
Well, now the whole idea of like this is potentially some kind of a fundamental level of just like human cognition kind of flies out the window, because now you're influencing it with an external physical thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we're trying to really get at.
Because like this is as okay, if it goes as far as I'm thinking, it would be is as if you're all of a sudden able to see like in the air the equation for gravity.
Basically.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you would think, dear God, are we hallucinating? Like, or wait, is this a like, am I just an avatar and I'm seeing like a game code and this, and then your brain just goes flying into so many different directions. You know why this is so fascinating for me is, number one, this is kind of, there's several, I don't want to say paradoxes, but there's several things that play in my head. Number one, I'm totally sober, and I am incredibly passionate about, Mark Zuckerberg refers to it as raw dogging reality. I think that for me, and I think that is like a glorious way of living life, is raw dogging reality. And I also am grateful that I have tried incredibly powerful hallucinogens in my life, like ayahuasca, so that I can at least understand what you're talking about. And I'm also really grateful that you're not completely sober and that you experiment with DMT, and then all your test subjects experiment with DMT. And I hope that this is only all a positive thing for you. Okay, so then I also have an incredibly deep relationship with God, who I see as being one with Jesus Christ, and a very clear story. And so this doesn't scare me at all. I think I am in some ways calm. All this new information, I'm simply going to file underneath this glorious, wonderful universe that we're all still understanding, that has been built for us. And I think years ago, I might have been nervous. Oh my gosh, I hope this doesn't break my understanding of God, or I hope it's like, and I'm only excited about this. And, or I might've been nervous. Oh, I hope this doesn't change how I feel about my own sobriety. Maybe I'll find myself wanting to try this stuff. I'm like, yeah, no. Even then I'm like, I'm in a pretty good place.
Yeah.
Whatever's learned. So I'm only able to just get excited about what you're saying, but it is bonkers.
It is bonkers.
Bonkers.
Yeah.
To think that there's a chance that we might all just be sitting in a waiting room on our way to heaven, and we might be wearing VR headsets, and it's like, however you play that game determines if you go to heaven. Or I'm like, so many directions, so many freaking directions.
If somebody doesn't think what I'm saying is bonkers, they either don't believe it or don't quite understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It is absolutely bonkers. The thing there is, so it's more, while you were talking and we're sitting in your beautiful studio, it actually made me realize that the best way to describe what we're seeing there, and almost it quite literally looks like you're looking at the canvas on which reality is being painted.
Okay.
You're looking at the substrate on which everything is being presented, at least all the visual and the physical stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you think about it in religious terms, in the beginning was the Word.
Oh, gosh, you're asking me a question.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It was just in the beginning was the Word.
Yeah.
The Word, the instantiation of a symbol, the logos, right?
Yeah.
And that is, you're literally looking at probably the coding that God is using to paint reality.
I mean, it's part of this interview. I just want to sit with my mouth open. Like behind you is a neon piece of art, and I can change my direction. And it's so wild that you're telling me that the same way that neon stays in the same spot, this code does too.
Yes, the whole structure
with every single test subject.
It's a super complex thing. Yeah, and in fact, one of the last experiences that I've had with we tried to test it with 5-MeO versus NN-DMT, which is a little different.
Okay.
5-MeO is considered to be what people call the God molecule.
Okay.
Because not like NN-DMT, which is mostly what is used also in ayahuasca, which is very visual, it's very content driven. With 5-MeO, it's a full dissolution of everything, the self, your perception of the body. There's no mapping happening anymore. And you're in the presence of, well, the only thing that you can describe it as the God Almighty. You're just in the presence of, that's why people call it the God molecule. And
wait. They call it the God molecule because your
completely dissolve. So with NN, it's super visual.
Okay.
This is when people say DMT, they mean NN-DMT.
NN-DMT.
Yeah, okay. 2 nitrogens.
It's like an ultimate hallucinogen.
It's just so real. It's more real than this. Like you literally Neo waking up one level up, and this was the dream. That's what it feels like.
Okay, expand on that.
So
we're real close.
The same feeling you have if you wake up from a very realistic dream in the morning, and then you remember that was a dream.
Yeah,
you get one level up from this. That's what happens with NN. You literally feel like this was the dream, and you go like, "Wait, what?" Like you just remember, and you're in a different place. And I don't mean metaphorically.
It's never been explained to me like that.
It's literally feels like you woke up in another dimension, and you remember the whole time you were dreaming this. That's what it feels like.
Wow.
And but that world is so different, so alien, and yet so familiar, which is very bizarre.
Okay.
So not like with Neo that wakes up and he's never even considered what that is. Obviously, he also wakes up in a very not pleasant environment.
It's traumatic, yeah.
Right? In this case, I mean, you can find yourself in a place that is not very pleasing.
Right.
But for the most part, it's just like enormous jump in terms of meaning, color, edge detection, shapes, dimensionality, everything goes up. And it's more real than this. So if people wonder what I mean by that is that there is a difference between dreaming and being awake, right? So like when you dream, things are more vague, they're more cloudy. Also, they're not as continuous over time. You can be on escalators in the mall, and all of a sudden you're like on some kind of a beach somewhere, and you don't even skip a beat. You're like, oh yeah, and that's normal. Like you don't even think about it, right? But here things are more continuous and they're more permanent in space. And if you actually look at the visual, they're not as cloudy. Like things are very well defined, right? Well, these parameters are all parameters your brain uses to understand where it's at and what are the rules by which it's operating now.
Okay.
It's a different world. So imagine all of that more. So imagine the edge is even sharper. Imagine that the colors are even brighter. The meaning of things, the way that things hit you, the essence of things hit you a lot harder. So it's like everything is more.
And your mind is expanded a little bit so that you're able to digest
you understand
more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's a great question.
Yeah.
You can understand a fourth dimensional space. You get it. You're like, oh, it's like an in kind of like it's another in that isn't into any of the 3 dimensions that you're familiar with.
You know what? Do you think it's possible for someone to understand what you're explaining without having at least an introduction to some type of ayahuasca mushrooms?
It will be very difficult, but this example with the dream is the closest I think you can get to.
Okay.
Because it's not different.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But you're also right, because there are certain differences that are not just different in degree, like the ones that I just described, like the edge detection stuff,
right?
But they're different in kind. If there's a famous thought experiment in philosophy, I forget what the actual name of it is. It's named after the person that is being told about in the story. But the example is, people will be familiar with it. But the example is there's this researcher. Since she was a little kid, she only lived in a black and white room. Yeah. And she grew up to be a researcher who studies color. And she read all the books about colors. She never seen a color, but she read books about colors. Right. So you get the example, right? So then she knows all about wavelength of light and what changes color, but she's never experienced, she's never seen it before.
Yeah.
But she's the biggest world expert in how color comes about, or the relationships of colors, all of it.
Right.
And if she steps outside one day, into a colorful world, did she learn something? Yes, she learned everything. Until that moment, she knew nothing.
Wow.
And that's basically, because that's the thing that we're kind of missing, that there is something about the symbolic, which is what learning about the relationships between things, that is informative if you want to create some specific, accurate perturbations of things. You can't just by experiencing things build a rocket. Not going to happen, because there's specificities, there's mathematics, there's ways in which things need to be arranged that is very exact. For that, you need the symbolic. So it has a place. But unless you already knew what all the stuff that is in our world from first-person experience are, like interacting with materials, touching things, feeling, hearing, all of that, you wouldn't be able to do it either. You need to have a baseline of experience with something to understand what it is, to have an intuition of what it is, right? The essence of it. So that, you're absolutely right. That kind of stuff that absolutely exists, more of that kind of things.
Yeah.
Unless you experience it before, there's nothing I can say to you, because if you've never seen purple, how can I ever explain to you what purple is? It's not,
I just want to interrupt. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of spiritual teachers I really love talk about when they talk about the reason why we come here as souls to the physical plane.
Yeah.
You can understand everything about, you have all the information in the universe about what peppermint bonbon ice cream tastes like, but until you actually put it in your mouth, you have no experience whatsoever. So
Yeah. From the universal perspective, you can think of it like this. Nothing really matters until something experiences it. Because in order for something to make sense to God, just like us, God needs certain sense organs to experience it with. So it's almost like God sent all his souls to experience everything that is possible to experience.
If God is everything, he needed to be able to see something else other than itself. It needed to see.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Something to be in a relationship with, exactly, which is what that is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that the experience of being God has got, I mean, I just think of my son, how he builds these worlds with toys, and he's so excited about it, and he really loves what he's built, and he's got it, his head is around it, and he's there's a love that he has for what he's built and everything. I'm like, there has to be so many comparisons between God and children, and maybe I'm way off.
No, we're creators in the making.
Yeah.
With one caveat that this is, and I honestly think this, if we pull this thread too deeply, this will be just simply the rest of the conversation. So that don't necessarily trying to make it about that.
Yeah.
But one comment I will say is that I was exposed to like a vision that basically showed me that we are creators in the making of a sort. But this idea that a lot of modern spiritual people have, that we are, so Jesus meant to say, I am the Son of God, but so are you. That's incorrect.
Okay.
That's incorrect. That's actually, Jesus is unique, that he was or is God embodied. We are not. There's a difference. So there's actually a difference there. This is why we worship Jesus, and it's not, there's no place where we reach to be that, because we're just a different kind of a thing. Now, there's, like, I understand there's like so many questions there, right? But there's a reason why certain abilities that gods have that humans don't, is because we reside in a world that is bounded by certain rules, that in order to be outside of that world, you have to be of a different kind, and not just a different degree of evolution. You can evolve to very, very high degrees of things that we can become,
right?
But it will never be that, and that's okay. We're not that kind of a thing.
Yeah. I'm into pulling this thread for a bit.
No, please. Yeah.
Okay. So because it's also wild to me that we share a same passion for what I feel. In some ways, you almost call it old school Christianity, where it's like,
I actually don't. It's funny because I don't share that. It's not like a passion of mine. The way that I see my role in this reality is an honest reporter. My obligation is to report honestly. So if I see something, I have to say it exactly how I saw it. I always imagine it's like I'm standing on some apple boxes.
That's even more interesting.
Peeking through a crack, right? And if I see something and it's chosen to me in a particular way by a signature that I've identified as this is like official message, this is not like some kind of a freelancer who's telling you shit. If I see that, my obligation is to report it. If you ask me what I think that means, I then am obligated to create a separation and say, okay, this is what my avatar Danny thinks, but it's not what I saw. So that's all I can say. That's what I saw. That there is a difference between what we are and what this continuum is. And it's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing. The level of responsibility on that level is something we cannot comprehend. And maybe I don't know like how these things evolve, but currently it seems that this idea is false. And there is a very important component to why this resurgence of people's connection to what we believe Christ to be. There's a function there that is very important to this point in history. In order to move through the eye of the needle.
So it's almost like what you're saying is Christ isn't the perfect version of human. He's a different entity entirely.
He's a God.
Something that we aspire to. Yeah. Okay.
He's a God. He's a God. So basically, the best explanation. He's the best explanation that I've ever heard of this is by this mathematician who also happens to be a man of Christ. He's a religious person. Do you know who Alex O'Connor is?
No, I don't.
So he has a big channel. He talks to people about philosophy and stuff. Highly recommended. Very fun channel. And he was talking to this guy who I didn't quite understand if he was also a priest, but he's definitely a man of God. But he's also a known mathematician. And Alex asked him about the problem of evil, which is an obvious question, right? All religious people have to contend with that. That guy, I think his name is John something. He gave the best answer to this I've ever heard in my entire life, or at least an attempt to coming at it. And it has to do with this instantiation of what Jesus is.
Yeah.
So he said, all belief systems have to contend with this question, the problem of evil. And if you're religious, the version that you're contending with is, if God is all powerful and all good, why does God allow for fill in the blank, X and X and X, right?
Yeah. Tornadoes,
babies
genocide,
being mutilated, like all the most horrible things you can think of. How can all good God allow for that? And he said that's a real conundrum. Not gonna lie to you, that's a real conundrum.
Sure.
But he said that because I'm a mathematician, after thinking about this question for a very long time, I realized something, and it has a very similar flavor to the kinds of questions that mathematicians are being asked for millennia, that there's simply no good answer to for a long time. People trying to solve, some problems, some conjectures takes thousands of years to solve, literally. And he says that usually mathematicians would do a very interesting psychological move when we're facing with questions like that. Sometimes they would say, maybe we're asking the wrong question. And he says, so I would, in the spirit of that, I would like to offer a different question. Equally as difficult. But I'm just saying what he said.
Sure.
He's saying, but I believe it gets us a little further. What we should ask is, given that it is the case that these things are happening, is there any evidence of a God who understands it and cares about it? And he says that the answer to that, to me, is pretty clearly yes.
Yeah.
In that God, because he's all-powerful, had to, diminish is the wrong word, but instantiate himself into human flesh.
Sure.
And allow himself to feel the ultimate suffering. So he truly understands it. So he can understand what people are going through.
The way that you express this, just throws me so much.
It hit me hard too. It's not mine. This guy's brilliant. And I'm like, wow. Okay.
But the idea that God at one point, let's say after, running his game for a little while, goes, oh my gosh, I need to stop. I'm going to stop this for 1 second, and I'm going to get my head into this. I'm going to truly feel what they're feeling, and I'm going to adjust the game a bit.
Not just that, I'm going to feel the version of that they can't possibly feel. Because Jesus basically went through all the levels of hell as well. So like God felt the ultimate suffering for us. So he can then understand it from the carnal level of experience.
Yeah.
Something that technically is the one thing that God is kind of like limited in that regard. Maybe limited is the wrong word, but it is the one blind spot, right? Because it's all powerful. But God allowed himself to go into that state that just, no, I'm going to feel the ultimate version of suffering that no human can ever withstand.
I'm also going to feel like the betrayal of a friend.
It's part of it.
Feel a love that's unrequited, probably with one of the Mary or something like that. I'm going to see friends die. I'm going to even know that I'm going to even leave knowing that some of these homeboys that I love so deeply are going to be brutally tortured themselves and be able to do nothing about it. Like things that you don't really even, obviously the physical torture sounds horrible, but there are other things that they don't go into as much, which is like if you were on your deathbed knowing that there was, your daughter was going to go through an unbelievable pain and stuff. And so he knows, he's even given the information that, my gosh, all your boys are going to be tortured to death. Yeah, that's wild.
And that's just the beginning, because then he goes into the actual.
Yeah.
So imagine that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Geez, that's the first time I've sort of digested anything beyond just, oh my gosh, he's just tortured like as bad as can be. It's like, no, it's much, much worse than that.
That's how much he loves us.
Yeah.
That's how much he loves us. And that's why the tribute of just acknowledging that gives you the full benefits of it. If you can understand that, God goes, now you're getting it.
You want to know something? So back to making sure we always have the context laid underneath this conversation. You have a unique perspective about all of this, because not only have you managed to find this one unique property of this laser in your DMT, but also you've had experiences. Is it through DMT or through other things?
No, it was only through substances.
Okay.
I'm referring myself sometimes to being spiritually retarded.
But you have been able, I think, you've had experiences through DMT and substances that have given you a perspective. I mean, I'm really shocks me.
I have ventured into that territory probably deeper than most people who have ever lived. Yes.
Explain what have you, how would you describe what you've seen, so I can at least in my mind understand
in that particular thing?
Yeah. Like your version of pulling a curtain back and going, oh my gosh.
So I think what happened is that because I've been doing these things for a very long time.
Yeah.
I've started doing psychedelics since I was like 11. It was my favorite thing. And, I've done it all. I went really, really deep with these things. I mean, a neuroscientist told me I'm lying because I told her what I did. I was driving to Vegas. I think I told you this last time we chatted. And I kept on eating acid tabs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I ended up consuming like 5,400 micrograms, which is a good portion of the bottle. She said, you're lying because you would go into a shock. I said, okay. I did this, so I don't know what to tell you.
Sure.
I ventured so deeply that I don't know what the reason for it is. Either my brain learned how to fold these things and things that make more sense, or all of a sudden, whomever's on the other side looked at me and said, who is this nutcase? Okay, what's going on here, bro? And then maybe they made some kind of an alignment happen for me. I'm not sure what the reason for that is. Yeah. But I can very is a stretch, but I can relatively easy discern where the signal is coming from. So you have a lot of it's a whole ecosystem. It's like going to New York. There's so many people trying to talk to you, and well, in New York nobody's trying to talk to you, but there's a lot of interactions that can be.
Once you get into, let's say, what would you even call it? Once you get into this space,
Yes.
Which is a little bit past reality.
Something that we just recently, yesterday and the day before, recorded with Dr. Andrew Gallimore, who's one of the leading experts in the world in psychedelic research.
Okay.
And his new book, Death by Astonishment, that is coming out actually right now.
Okay.
He talks about how he believes that technically that world comes to you. Now, it might sound to some people that distinction without a difference, but I think there is a difference there. You're not going anywhere. It's coming to you. It's flooding into, your gates are opening and it's just coming in.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you enter that space, there's things live there and all kinds of things trying to interact with you and perform for you and trying to grab your attention. I think what I've learned how to do is understand the essence of things and understand what is what and who is talking. And there are messages that are very clearly not by just some guy on the street, so to speak.
Yeah.
But by the government, by the official representation of whatever the space is.
Okay.
And only that signal is the one I'm reporting.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Gadzooks. And you're when you get that signal and it's clear to you, and it sounds like it's always pretty clear.
At this point, yes.
It's not like dreaming where you're like, I kind of remember something. You're like, you get it.
I mean, it's not that hard to understand if you have minimal human skills, right? You enter a certain clique or a certain group of people. If you interact with them for years and years and years, you kind of get who's whom, right? There's the confabulator. There's the one that is always exaggerating everything, right?
Yeah.
There's the person who's like a very, very honest, almost to their own detriment person, right?
Yeah.
You get who's who, right? So when somebody tells you something, you already know how to treat that information in the level that it deserves. It's really no different. When you listen to a particular group of any agents, you kind of understand who is saying what and in what way, under what circumstances. And that gives you a lot of context.
Okay, what do you call these different agents that are communicating to you?
I don't call them anything, but they're just like there's entire array of different species. There's again, this is where it kind of gets a little tinfoil.
And they're all under. Are they all under a god? Is that what you're saying?
So what I saw in that vision, which was very much a kind of like a diagram of how everything works, is that we exist in some kind of a tri-system thing. I don't even know what that is, but it's like a 3-ball thing. One of them is our multiverse.
Okay.
So just to be clear, all the stuff that usually people think about, now they're going to start trying to map all the names of the different deities we believe in into this. None of this is relevant because, for example, Gaia is Earth.
Okay.
That's way inside, right? We're talking about outside of that. It's like a completely different new ecosystem that we know nothing about, basically.
Okay.
The only thing we kind of know something about from this outer system is Jehovah, is the God of the Bible.
Okay.
That's the only entity outside that we know about, and Jesus Christ. But there are others. Jehovah is not alone.
Okay.
Which is uncomfortable for Christians. But
oh yeah, that's uncomfortable.
For Christians, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and there
that's
are
the only thing you've said that's uncomfortable for me.
Yes, and there are above him.
Yeah.
And the ultimate one
above him. Oh,
yes.
Now it's real uncomfortable.
Yes.
Okay.
And the ultimate one seems to be a woman. And it is not Gaia. And she's basically the everything.
Okay.
Everything comes out of that. And then it's possible, this is where I have to kind of make a separation where what I think.
Does she know me?
She knows everything.
She's like,
but she's so far removed from our operation.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah. She's not something that anybody's being can refer to inside because it's so far removed.
Yeah. By the way, you know how I'm saying that this is uncomfortable? How God is like, there's no other God. I'm the only God.
Yeah.
He I'm not uncomfortable with him anymore. He's like, yeah, whatever he's saying is correct. he's like, you don't even need to worry about what guy or whether above it. He's like, that's not even a thing. I'm the only God that's you're dealing with.
Yeah, but I don't think it comes out of any kind of hubris or any ill doing. I think it's the opposite. It comes out of love.
Yeah.
I think the relevance of that was exactly what I was about to say, that I think, I'm not sure, I think that the reason that it's expressed this way is that he's basically saying, you don't want to worry about that. Okay, let me deal with that.
Yeah.
It's like, it will never be relevant to you. Let's stay here where things are relevant.
Yeah.
And I think
you won't understand.
Not only you won't understand, it will spin you out of control, and it's not a thing you want to be dealing with. Let me represent you.
Got it.
Kind of like that. That's what I think is.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. But that, now you have to ask yourself, what is the relevance of this? You also have to look at things in terms of value. So just like we said, right, that maybe there are certain truths that are so far removed that might be corrosive, that might not be relevant to a layer, maybe even detrimental to know them, right? It's possible.
Yeah.
I can't imagine them currently, me personally. I'm very much on the side of, if it's true, you want to know it. Because so far, everything we've encountered, there is something to be said about the modern scientific endeavor, that the only reason we got to it is because we stopped constantly believing that something else is going to help us, but actually took control over our own actions and started interacting with the world in a way that says we can make a difference. And some people look at that and say, well, that's hubris. That's actually the evil path. I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
I think there's something about knowledge that is divine, but just like any divine thing, you have to protect it. You have to know how to utilize it properly.
Sure.
Anything they can, powerful tools can both build and destroy, right? You can use a chainsaw to help you build a house faster, or you can mistakenly cut a limb, right? So there's always like
you can make an awesome character in a movie that is so amazing. Those movies are awesome.
What are we talking
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Amazing movies. I could watch. Oh man, what I would give for them to just crank those out. Oh,
in 3D now.
Love them.
This is great. So you have to ask yourself, what is the relevance of this? So to some degree, I'm still testing the grounds of what happens when I'm expressing these ideas, because it was not shown to me in terms of hush hush. It was just like, you wanted to know, here it is. Nothing told me you're not supposed to say, right? However, there is this one component at the end, that was shown to me kind of like at the end of all of that I do believe it has this question mark of like, what do you do now that you know that kind of thing? Do you talk about it? Do you live it? What do you do? So far, I'm not saying it to anyone. I'm just living it, right? But that one, I thought I couldn't be surprised anymore, and that one definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably what's gonna happen. I told my fiance because she's literally like, she was sitting next to me when this was happening, and that last bit I was like this for 10 minutes, and she got concerned. So she's like, she knew I was tripping, but she's like, are you okay? And I was like, and I looked at her, and I told her, like, on our deathbed, I will tell you what I saw.
What?
Yeah, because I couldn't, like, she knew, like, she's like, you got to tell me. I'm like, I can't. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's for me to carry and then live it, or is this something I'm supposed to share? Scary does. It's not the right. It's the level of what. It's like, I hate when people do what I'm doing right now, so I apologize. I understand. This is very annoying. I get it. But just to be very frank, what I'm doing with all this stuff is like, if I'm reporting something, I immediately feel what it feels like in my body saying it, right? And sometimes it can be to someone, right? So if I'm saying it to a particular person,
okay,
and it feels like against the grain, it's like, okay, just close your mouth. Like, it's not the right time to say any of that. It does happen to me sometimes. It happened to me recently when I said some of these things with a friend of mine who recently found Jesus, and he was happier than he ever was. And then we started getting into this a little bit, and he was like so excited we're talking about Jesus. And then I said one thing, right? Like you said, when you were uncomfortable,
Yeah.
you're already much more comfortable in your Christianity,
Yeah.
but he was like new to it, and I saw it creates dissonance in him, and I realized, I said, I apologize, I take it back. Let's bring back the conversation to something else. So it's trial and error, right?
It's cool.
So yeah, but beyond that point, it seems like, yeah, but if
You
I
have to
can't
be
say,
very comfortable, and you have to have. I think you have to have met God.
yeah, you need to
And
know.
you have to, and you have
I
to-
think he
you have to
has.
know him
but-
in the most profound
yeah.
way, and you have to be like, hey, I mean, for me, I'm like, he saved my life. Whatever we're talking about isn't going to change that. So if there's something that makes me uncomfortable, I am usually excited about working through that because I am comfortable in knowing that there are things I don't understand. But at the end of it is my homeboy. So it's like that is, and it is going to change that.
We can leave it at he got us.
But if you
We're
haven't,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you haven't completely, if your understanding is just academic, I think you'd be
Yeah, if you haven't
and you
experienced,
felt you needed that, but you haven't fully experienced it, then it would be
you don't know it, you believe it.
yeah.
You can't, if you know something, you don't believe it, you know it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the difference. No, I think in this case, he knows it. Like, that's not the thing.
Okay.
But there is something else that happens, which if I have to extend an olive branch to Christianity as a whole,
Yeah.
is that the one, so I'm going to say what I believe personally, and then I will also obviously express the fact that I don't truly know, and I'm always open to being revised. But currently, my perception is that the one thing where Christianity maybe emphasizes something a little bit too much that doesn't need to be there, which is that there's only this one way to do it. What matters in this whole belief system is the state that it puts you in. You can say the things you want about Jesus, but if you don't open your heart to it, like if you don't actually, it's not in you, that doesn't matter anymore. But in the same way,
Right.
if somebody their whole life, doing all the good things, they help the people who needs help, that they do everything, the charity, but they never heard of Jesus, they still gonna get the benefits because it's in them. Like it's the function that
I
matters.
believe that.
Yeah. But some Christians are not. They're like, no. It's like, well, okay, that becomes tribal, right? Now, but on the other hand, it's also possible that hey, in order to truly get through this period, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe yes, you do need to have all of it, including and maybe then the situation is that last second, if that good person lived their whole life in accordance to the laws of the God Almighty, and they never heard of Jesus, that last second, Jesus will come to them and say, hey, and they would not have no issue with accepting Jesus Christ because like, oh, of course, like it aligns with everything that I've already been doing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the case.
Like Dismas, the thief that got all the information the last second, the thief on the cross.
Yeah.
Oh man, lived. Okay. I think there's few things that are above my pay grade. That is the best way I can put it. And I'm like, I firmly believe that this path that has been put before me and these directions that have been put for me are the only way that I can get to what. Thank God I found it, and I've developed a relationship through this path that has been laid out through for thousands of years, and it's through G. If it's possible for others to get to the same place, I hope it is.
Yeah.
I only know that. Yeah, I get it.
We need to, the way that I see it, my modern version of this is that when you look out into outer space and all this untapped real estate, right, or potential, I think that the reason we don't know how to investigate that yet is because we don't hold the right kind of attitudes, not the right kind of technologies. Technologies will come the second the right attitude is in place. So I do think that what it is that everything we do, knowledge, technologies, that's divine, that's beautiful. It's just that it needs to be informed by the divine. So we are the bridge between what the divine is trying to express into this world. So the kinds of things we create now in small scale will scale. And if we create things that are all kind of like, all of that, well, that's what we're going to take with us to the galaxy and beyond. Or we can take art and beauty, and technology is just going to be a vehicle for the artistic and the beautiful to be expressed into the universe.
Do you have peers that you can, like, do you have peers that you bounce this stuff off of? I mean, we have conversations, but
some things, yeah, some technical things, scientific things. But you mean this particular thing?
Yeah.
No, that's all like me with myself. Yeah, I mean, there's peers that you can say, like, great minds that you read or listen to.
Sure.
Yeah, that's people that I see as peers in that regard.
You could be a prophet.
I'm definitely not one. Yeah.
But what's the difference between someone that gets information and then shares it and a
maybe I think that, well, the way that the word is used, right? There's a special plea.
You're like, don't call me a prophet. That is the easiest way for everyone to be very turned off by.
No, it's not just that. It's not just that. It's also, I think that I think it speaks to, and I do mean this. It speaks to all of us in the ways that we understand. So we're all, and again, I mean this, like, we all prophets in that way. If you listen to that thing, there's not one human that it's not available for them. So the only person who came as a prophet and became the Messiah he's the only one that fit the bill in history, right? So there were prophets, but they were in relationship to some kind of information that was made available. I guess it kind of fits. There's no way I can wiggle it. But I don't think that these are the terms we should be using. I think that what we need to understand is the thing that unifies us, because, like you say, what happens very quickly is you always have to think what happens to something when it scales. That's always the crucial question. So if you have a prophet model, let's say, so I'm coming and I'm saying this other person comes and says this. Some people drawn to this person, some people drawn to this person. It becomes about, people very easily get emotionally attached to that thing that they think they're following, when in reality, the only way it can scale, instead of just like, because people are limited, right? People get tired, people die, right? But if you can instantiate the true understanding that all of this is constantly with you, no matter, you can gather the information from somebody you maybe, there's a lot of people that I like listening to because they speak really nicely.
Sure.
But ultimately, I'm thinking what I'm really want to be interacting with is the information, is the thing that is actually emanating through what they're saying. So if that emphasis can start happening more and more, and I do think that everything that social media and the internet was meant to be in the divine plan is that it's a tool for that. So we can amplify the signals. I've recently watched this video that I'm going to share with you, with this kid who created this incredible illustration and analysis of the situation we're in. And his central thesis is like, if we can just learn to be the nodes on the system, the antennas that amplify inspiration, we're going to make it easy. Because if we just amplify, if we just amplify any signal just because it exists, that's the end to nowhere. Yeah. But if we can amplify the things that truly come from that place, and everybody knows it. They just need to open themselves to that. Yeah. So in that sense, that's what I want to encourage everybody to be their own. Well, and in Eastern traditions, that is the belief that you are your own master.
Yeah, that's great.
Most prophets historically have said, "Don't call me a prophet. Listen to the message and don't worship me."
Yeah, I guess I do think that it carries a lot of baggage. It's a very I do think that it's just the wrong emphasis. So there's a lot of people that are very wise, right? And like that guy, like, he blew my mind. That guy that I mentioned, the mathematician, it literally blew my mind. I've never heard such a wonderful answer to something. Yeah, that can speak to both atheists and religious people at once. And that's what we want. We want messages that are overarching. They are all they can emanate through all the different social belief systems and all of that. That's what we want.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's great that this is, I'm left with I'm so inspired by this conversation, and I feel that I've learned so much, but the one thing that I was, after our last conversation, everyone would be like, well, what did he say? And go, there's so much of it that is, I mean, obviously there's the beauty that I just have all this now on camera, the full conversation, but to just break any of it down into just bite-sized chunks is very difficult because I think that what this conversation has done, there's no other way of putting it. It just opened my mind a little bit more where I'm having these bigger thoughts already. And that's hard to communicate to somebody.
You can only communicate it if you truly stay connected in the moment. And that's my only real art and practice. Because the second you start thinking about what this was, people always say in podcasts, I was like, can you send me a series of questions that you want to be asked? I'm like, definitely not. Yeah, it's whatever arises in the moment, because then it's not real. It's not what it actually needs to be expressed in the moment. The thing always knows, and I think religious people have an easier time with this because there's a mechanism that is proposed to them by which this happens.
Sure,
it's my friend that I told you about. He calls it letting go of the wheel. It's like, I'm letting Jesus drive now.
Yeah,
I love that. So there's a way it makes sense to him. It's like he's not worried so much about bills anymore. He's a very responsible family man and everything, but still he was always very worried about everything. He's like, I'm not so worried anymore. I know that Jesus got me. Like, and that confidence, right? Because things truly are unfolding in a way that is always towards the harmonious, if you allow it to, the way of the Tao. But it's a very difficult thing to do if we believe we are these ultimate engineers that have to tinker with every single thing for it to happen. One of the things that kid is giving, you would love this video.
Yeah.
In this video is that he says that we should learn to be less of, forget the word he's using, but less of like the engineer type and more gardeners.
Oh,
yeah. So like we need to plant the right seeds at the right place and then allow the natural thing to just take its place. Understanding what is the natural order of things.
That's beautiful.
Is part of that. Yeah.
I love that.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Danny, last interview you said this, I don't know that you have, just for the listeners on the pod, when you took DMT and used the laser, what did you see? We talked a lot about the DMT experience and, all the spiritual aspects, but what did you actually see that in the laser that, caused you to go, wow?
Oh, yeah, I immediately saw it was just like a self-executing code of some sort, literally like in the Matrix. Just looks a little different and it's moving. Well, actually, in some ways it looks the same because it resembles Japanese a lot. It's not Japanese. I had some people who speak Japanese that said that it's definitely not Japanese. It's like a combination between Hebrew, Japanese, but it's like some kind of a like ancient language of some sort.
Yeah.
And it's just so clearly there. Like it's just like doing its thing. It has 3 different axes. It's rotating around these balls and then columns. It's like a machine. It's like a or a living thing. It's like a breathing. It's like an organic tapestry of some sort made out of this code, and it's just constantly moving. And I couldn't believe it at first because it wasn't haphazard. I was trying to figure out if we can determine if the DMT space is real because it feels so realistic. So I was aiming there for years, and all of a sudden when this thing worked, I almost couldn't believe it. I was like, what?
And you see it and everybody sees
And then I started showing people, and everybody saw the same thing.
That's wild.
Even without being prompted. We had
thousands of times now
all over the world. Yeah. Now it's like a subcultural thing. So then now we were in San Francisco last time we were filming there. We ran some tests with this known scientist, Stuart Hameroff. He's actually the guy that wrote that seminal paper with Roger Penrose about microtubules. I don't know if you know, but it's kind of like this. A lot of people know about this paper because it kind of talks about consciousness arising from quantum state and microtubules in the brain. So we did brain scan studies with him. There were some tests while people were, smoking and then doing the laser. But 2 people came by, a couple, and she is a researcher, a psychedelic researcher in, I think, Berkeley or something. So she did the first test with the DMT and the brain scan. And then I asked her, like, would you like to do the laser? And she said, what's the laser? And I said, wait, John didn't tell you? She's like, no. I go like, oh, perfect. Like she knew nothing about it.
Great.
Because at this point, this is kind of like getting really known. So people know about the laser experiment, but she knew nothing about it. And she's a researcher.
Yeah.
So like, perfect. So we put her on the thing. She smokes. She looks at the thing. We put a camera on her. It's almost like I handed her a script. She literally started listing every single thing that we're always saying is there. And also,
confirm.
no, she wasn't even. We weren't checking bullet points.
No,
It was
I'm
like,
saying in your mind.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
And she was just like, "What?" She's just like, "What is this?"
What is DMT exactly made of?
Dimethyltryptamine? No, it's a molecule. It's your body makes it. So it's a neuromodulator. We know your lungs make it. We know probably some parts of the brain make it. Probably not the pineal gland. Most people think it's produced by the pineal gland. It's almost certainly not the case.
How do they extract it and get?
You can extract it from. It's in every living thing. Usually, it's extracted from plants, Mimosa hostilis, because there's a high concentration in it. But it exists in every living thing. Or you can synthesize it in a lab, just like you can do with anything else, which is actually better because you know exactly what you're getting. But yeah, DMT.
Why have you asked or tried to figure out like why is this being made available to you? What to us? Why is there a molecule that allows us to do that? Yeah,
there's certain things that they seem to be like puzzles we're supposed to solve, and they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you what the code is. They're not going to tell you for certain things they just want you to solve.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Killer.
It is wild, yeah.
Dude, I love you. This is amazing.
Thank you.
We're good. You're such a pleasure. You're not pitching anything,
no.
But you do have a documentary that you're working on that's not going to be ready for a while.
No, it's going to be ready in the end of the year. For sure.
Oh, like 6 months?
Maybe even less.
What are you calling it?
The Discovery.
The Discovery.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course. And what's the easiest way that someone can find the trailer for the Discovery?
On my channel, Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts, 3 words. And they can check out more about our project on codeofreality.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And there's a trailer, which just watching the trailer blew my mind.
I appreciate that. We have Aaron Venden, who is responsible for that. He's the director of the film, and he's an absolute master of his craft. I could not be more proud to work with someone like him. Or to be more quite honest, he's doing all of the work. So
we can just use the trailer at the beginning of this.
Absolutely. And
that's the best way to give a context for this.
And the movie has evolved so much since then. Like the trailer has this like film noir kind of vibe, which is cool. But the whole thing evolved so much. There's like this progression to the arc, and it's unbelievable. And one more person I do want to mention is David Carter, who's now my partner in Code of Reality Inc.
Yeah.
This is the nonprofit that we started that is going to be doing all the actual science and the investigation, all of that stuff. He's an absolute master he's a team builder, is a problem solver. He's amazing.
Killer.
The amount of stuff that he did in this short period of time is just unbelievable. And yeah, but the truth is that there's a lot of people that we need to pay tribute to. It's just I can't start mentioning everybody, but I'm humbled by the amount of and the caliber level of the kind of people that are walking into the space say, hey, I want to help.
At the very least, anybody needs to, even if you forget, you said dango.com.
Dango Thoughts and codeofreality.com.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Even if someone forgets that and they're driving and they go, just Google Danny Goler, DMT experiment. I mean, it's like you can get there. You can get this trailer alone.
ChatGPT recognizes it. Yeah, it's crazy. If you do DMT laser, it's very memeable.
Yeah.
It's like DMT laser.
DMT laser.
Yeah.
I love you, brother.
I love you too, brother. Thank you so much.